You're welcome to introduce yourselves in the chat as people trickle in. And we welcome you to ask questions in the chat. We'll be monitoring it throughout the webinar, and we'll have a Q&A section at the end of the webinar. We're looking forward to introducing you to prioritizing safety over speed. I'm already seeing some great introductions. We have lots of speed, need more safety. I thoroughly agree. Memphis is a place that we've worked with our Dangerous by Design work, and welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. I'm glad to see the geographic representation. Shout out to Texas. As a native Texan, I appreciate that. Um, well, I reckon let's get started.
Yeah, let's do it.
Welcome everyone. We're Transportation for America, and we're introducing our reauthorization proposals for transportation. I'm Jaibin Mathew. I'm a policy associate. I have the privilege of working on our pedestrian safety and walking and biking infrastructure work. I work with the National Complete Streets Coalition on federal advocacy, advocating for a transportation system where everyone can walk, bike, and roll comfortably. And I'll pass that to Steve to introduce himself.
Hey, everybody. My name is Steve Davis. I'm the AVP of Transportation for Smart Growth America, which is the parent organization of Transportation for America, which I am the interim director of. And so I kind of manage all of our transportation programs across Smart Growth America, including T4. And I'm excited to be here today and talk about something that I've spent a lot of time thinking about in the last few years. So it's going to be a good topic. Thank you, everybody, for being here.
A little bit about Transportation for America. We're a program of Smart Growth America, and we're a national nonprofit working to create a transportation system that safely, affordably, and accessibly connects everyone to jobs, services, and opportunities through diverse travel options. We do this through advocacy, direct community support, research, and analysis. And part of this advocacy is our reauthorization proposals. We have three large buckets that we have placed our proposals into: safety over speed, fix it first, and invest in the rest. These all work together in tandem in order to advance a transformative transportation system. Today, we're going to be discussing safety over speed. And you can find all our proposals on t4america.org/reauthorization. I'll pass it back to Steve in order to go over the state of our system.
Yeah, thank you, Javen. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. Really appreciate your time. I know some of you were probably here for our last session. We walked through some of our policies for Fix It First, and we kind of have a bonus fourth bucket of accountability. We walked through those last time, and you probably heard some of this in there if you were there. I want to go through it again briefly because I know we have a lot of people that were not in there last time. And the thing that I really want to stress is that our proposal for reauthorization is a full package of ideas. We think that we need something completely new for the federal transportation program. Our proposals are not about making some marginal improvements around the edges. I'll show you the whole package, here in a minute, or picking the two or three that seem like good ideas. We think we fundamentally need a new approach to federal transportation policy and funding in this country. And there's two reasons why I'm going to walk through really quick. The first is that this system that we have is failing to deliver on the promises that are made within the system and that Congress has signed on to as to what this program is supposed to be delivering for the taxpayers. This program is failing to deliver on repair. We have a huge backlog of even just basic state of repair projects, in addition to things that we need to repair that are deficient. Bike lanes that don't exist, sidewalks that don't exist, crosswalks that don't exist, roads that need to be radically reimagined to be safer. The thing that has always gotten me when it comes to repair is that this is an incredibly popular idea with voters. If you made a federal transportation program that was predominantly focused on repair, you would have the support of most voters. 79% of voters, when we talked this last time in a poll a couple of years ago, believe that we should fix existing roads before building anything new. People get this basic concept. ASCE, the civil engineers, recently put out their report card they do every few years, and after spending $1.5 trillion over the last 30 years or so, our roads went from a C to a C. Our bridges slightly improved to a grade that you would not like to see for many of your children on their report card. So this program is failing to deliver the outcomes that are promised to us on repair. It's also failing to deliver when it comes to congestion, delay, giving us other options for getting around. Congestion is one of the core areas of performance in the program. It's often the thing that is sucking up the money that should be going to repair, yet we're not really making any progress on congestion either, right? We looked at a few years ago at congestion in the largest 100 urbanized areas. It's up 144%. Whatever it is that we're doing on congestion is not getting there either. Not enough Americans have good, high quality transit within walking distance, within a close distance to use. We fail to deliver other options for people to opt out of congestion. At the same time that mitigating congestion has really been the number one goal of a lot of transportation programs, especially at the state level. And this program, importantly, what we're going to be talking about today, has truly failed to deliver on safety. While overall fatalities have trended slightly down the last few years, that's down to a level that none of us should celebrate. Among the developed world, we are near the bottom of the list. If you took out the United States from the stats, there would be massive improvements worldwide in the developed world when it comes to safety. When it comes to safety for people outside of vehicles, it's getting worse and worse. Those numbers are up 75% since 2010. Most of these deaths happen on roads that are federally funded, state-owned roads. We'll talk a little bit more about that type in just a minute. The faster people are going, the more likely they are to be killed if they are struck. This has changed dramatically, especially as our vehicle fleet has gotten larger and heavier. And this may even undercount your likelihood of death getting hit by a car going faster and faster. That's why speed is so important. And that's why we need to talk about truly making safety the top priority. The thing that every transportation agency will tell you is their top priority. Is often tied with a bunch of other things that often went out. And what our overall idea is that you cannot prioritize both speed and safety. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But really quick, on the funding side, when we talk about funding this federal transportation program, this is where the conversation starts for a lot of stakeholders, especially a lot of stakeholders here in DC. And the point I think we're trying to make is that this trust fund that funds the federal transportation program, it is not on life support. It is not threatened. It is not in danger of insolvency. It has been dead since 2008. The trust fund, as we should think of it, does not functionally exist anymore. We have put more than $275 billion from all taxpayers into the trust fund to keep it solvent. That is not a solvent trust fund. It is no longer existing in the way that it was conceived. And what we're saying is that if this program is so bad at delivering on the outcomes that it is supposed to be delivering, then perhaps it's time to stop propping it up over and over again. We need to do something different when it comes to funding. And the step one is recognizing that the system that we have is broken. We've bailed out the Highway Trust Fund a total of 9 times, starting all the way back in 2008. And if we had not put that, done those 9 bailouts over the years, looking forward to 2035, we'd be $605 billion in the hole. $275 billion put into the trust fund. That is an entire reauthorization worth of money that we have taken from all taxpayers, whether you bought a gallon of gas or not. And when we're taking money from all taxpayers, not just people that are users of the system, then I think it's only fair that everyone demands more performance from the system. And that's really what we're talking about. Um, a lot of people have talked about the idea of focusing the program, down to core purposes of highway funding. If we took every other use from the trust fund and booted it from the trust fund, the highway formula program alone is $20 billion over what the gas tax brings in. So if that's the strategy, if the people in Congress want to eliminate the coalition that has supported all of these infusions to the trust fund over the years by getting rid of all these other things, they're still going to have to find $20 billion in cuts to get down to the level of the gas tax. We need to do something different. AASHTO represents state DOTs. It's not in the business of something different. To be fair, they're in the same camp as most of the other transportation stakeholders in Washington, D.C. Their starting point for the next authorization to replace the IIJA is that we need to borrow, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood of $215 billion from all taxpayers to keep doing the same thing, to keep up with the C's and the D's in the state of our infrastructure. And we think a great place to start would be to lop off everything on that red line above the dotted line. It's time to replace this bankrupt program with something entirely new. And that's what we're getting at with these proposals today. So just want to situate where we are in this reauthorization package that we've put together. We have these three areas with this kind of bonus one of modernizing the program. But all of these work together in tandem. This isn't something that works by taking one or two things out of here that we like and going from there. Today, we're talking about stop prioritizing speed over safety. We have another policy there under design for safety over speed that we'll be talking about later this summer. We'll be walking through all of these through the course of some other webinars coming over the rest of this summer. We've already talked about the first one under Fix It First and the first one under Modernize the Program. So stay tuned. Join our email list, check your inboxes, and we'll let you know as we get those scheduled. Okay, so let's dive in. Stop prioritizing speed over safety. That's the core idea that we want to talk about today. We made a video just a couple years ago about why safety and vehicle speed are incompatible goals. It is not possible to prioritize both of these things. I heard there's a great quote. If you don't know where you're going, any path will get you there. We truly do not know where we're going when we try to say that safety is our top priority. And also our top priority is move as many cars as possible, as fast as possible, create economically viable places, reduce congestion, eliminate delay. You can't do all these things at once. Something has to be the top priority. And the top priority needs to be safety. So what does that look like? So this idea of speed versus safety, they aren't always in conflict. One example you have on the right here is what we do with interstates. It is possible to design a roadway for high speed and have it also be safe. By miles traveled, this road on the right, it's an incredibly safe place to travel. Are there accidents? Are there fatalities? Absolutely. They absolutely happen there. Yet millions of miles are traveled on roads like this every day. And we've done this by reducing complexity, widening the lanes, making the clear zones wide. You have room to recover should you weave out of your lane or onto the shoulder. We've also removed the people, the pedestrians, the mopeds, the motorcycles, the intersections, the distractions, the driveways. We have reduced this to its sole purpose of moving people very quickly over great distances at a high speed. And it's safe I have the asterisk there, it's safe for the people that are intended to use this. This is not intended for people walking. This is also not intended for what you see on the left, which is to create a place that is valuable. This is a street. It's a place where it's going to be tough to drive fast. Most people aren't going to do it. They're not going to feel safe doing it. And everything about the design of this roadway signals to you that there are going to be other people here. There's going to be complexity. Your attention is going to be needed. You can't look down in your lap. You can't turn your head to the side. People are crossing in the middle of the block. You've got cars backing out of spaces. By its nature, this is going to be a low speed corridor, but it's going to be very, very safe, and it's going to be very safe for everybody that needs to use it. So you have these two things. You have two ends of the spectrum. You have a street, you have a road, you have a highway, and we end up in most of the places, in most places, building something that is in between these two things, and it is neither speedy as far as getting you a really long distance in a quick period of time, and it is not safe for anyone that needs to use it. So this is a few years old now. The numbers are about the same, but the non-interstate arterial highways, I'll show a picture of it in a minute, but it's every 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lanes if you live in Florida, maybe. Arterial highway, it's might have sidewalks, might not. Has a lot of traffic control devices, has a lot of destinations, has a lot of malls, housing, subdivision entrances, all of those things. This is a small proportion of the US road network, yet this is where the overwhelming majority of all pedestrian fatalities occur. And it's because we have designed them to try and move people as quick as possible, while at the same time putting all the things that everybody needs on both sides of a road like this. And so then we end up with these roads that are low safety. They're very dangerous for everyone. And they also have high speeds, 45-mile-an-hour speed limit, 50-mile-an-hour speed limit, with actual speeds that are much higher. But do you drive on these like an interstate? No, you're stopping every mile, every half mile, whatever it may be. But at the same time, just like you see on this road on the right, which is a road in Memphis, actually, um, there's a crosswalk there in the distance, I think. Technically in the state of Tennessee, that one kind of in the middle of the frame there with the two cars passing by each other, that's also a legal crosswalk. It's not marked, but that's a place where people can legally cross the street. That is a legal, safe crossing, not a legal, unsafe crossing, right? So this is what we end up with, and it's not safe for anyone. It's not safe for people driving as well. It's not fair to put people in an environment where we're asking them to drive fast. You should expect to not need much attention. Speed limits are high. The lanes might be, wide. The clear zone is wide. There's not a lot of things near the edge of the road. Yet we're going to have people doing U-turns in front of you. We're going to have people trying to cross the street at crossings like this one on the right. I saw this from Chuck Marone at Strong Towns just last week, a session we were in with him. He had this slide. When faced with environments that are designed for fast driving and no pedestrians, people are going to drive fast and not look for pedestrians. We are putting people into a situation where we are telling them that speed is the greatest priority here. At the same time, we're trying to keep people safe, and we're trying in vain. And so we end up with roads like these in Baton Rouge. That are not safe for anyone, not great for creating value, not great for moving you over a long distance at a high speed. It's really not doing any of the things that we want. So diving into our policy proposals just a little bit. And if you have any questions about any of that kind of fundamental stuff on safety over speed, we'd be happy to answer that too. But we have, I think, five ideas that we're going to walk through today. Kind of quickly, can't do justice to all of these because they're complicated. But the first thing I want to say when we talk about, so this first goal of requiring grantees to improve their roadway system safety. So right now, just a quick explainer, we have a system of performance measurement management that was created in the 2012 reauthorization, MAP 21, where in exchange for more flexibility for states and MPOs to spend their money however they wanted, they traded that. They got more flexibility in exchange for a system of having to set targets to make improvements across 7 areas: safety, congestion, project delivery. There's a total of 7. And this is in an authorization that Congress overwhelmingly voted for on a bipartisan fashion. So this was the deal. We'll give you more money. You can spend that money however you like, but you need to set targets for these 7 areas. Now, there were some huge flaws in this approach, namely the fact that states are not required to set targets to improve on any of those things. So what we're talking about when we talk about setting targets, we're talking about also creating a new system for performance management from scratch. We wrote about this. We wrote about this just last week. If you want to read it, there's the title of the post. Jabin might be able to find that and drop that in the chat for you. We also want to build a new system. We agree with Ashtos or other people critiquing this system as sort of a system of box checking. That's truly what it's become. And our take is not that we should get rid of it. It's that we should make it what it was intended to be, which is a system of accountability and transparency, especially as as state DOTs and MPOs and other agencies are getting more taxpayer money, more money that is not coming from users. It is the least we can do that they be accountable for accomplishing things that are measurable, concrete, tangible, and that we can hold them accountable for making progress. So step one that we noted there is requiring them to set targets to improve the safety of the roadways. You cannot set targets to get worse. You cannot set targets that are unhinged from reality, as Florida DOT does. They officially set their targets at 0. They have in 2018, in 2020, in 2022, at a time when the total deaths on their roadways are going up and up and up, over 3,000 people killed every year. And they say our target every year is 0. They do nothing. There's nothing in their spending that would recognize that this is maybe the greatest challenge that they have. And they treat this system as if it were a joke. And our proposal is to make the system not a joke. Let's make it for real. Let's hold states and metros accountable for improving their safety. We also have this second provision on STIPs and TIPs. If you don't know what these are, that's understandable. Try to stop us if you hear an acronym that doesn't make sense. But this is basically where states, metro areas are laying out the projects over the next 4 years that they are definitely going to build, that they have funding for in some fashion. They were designed, the intent of these things was to make the project selection understandable and transparent, where taxpayers could know at any given time, what are they going to do with my money? You can go and look at this. And you can Google your state's STIP or TIP, and you can find it. Good luck making sense of it. And good luck reading project descriptions and having any sense of what that project is actually going to do. And the other thing that's really missing is that they don't feed into this system of performance measurement management. There's no need to explain in your STIP and your TIP how these 10 projects or these 100 or these 150 projects that we've chosen, we have chosen these because they are going to move the needle on safety or on delay or on whatever the metric is that they're supposed to measure. So we're talking about creating a feedback loop where it's not just that you have to publish a STIP or a TIP. It has to be understandable. It has to be truly transparent. You need to explain to people what they're looking at in there, and you need to explain how these projects are that you have selected are tied to the measures that you have set, how they're going to get you there. And also making these STIPs and TIPs much more transparent, easier to find on the FHWA or FTA websites. Most of these are found at the state level. Some are easy to find, some are not easy to find. That needs to be the same across the country, and that would be a great role for the feds to play here. Just the last couple things. We're also talking about some penalties for states that fail to make progress on the targets that they set. We allow them to, they should 100% set the targets themselves. If they know their systems, they know their context, they should set their targets. But if they fail to meet those targets, then they should face penalties. And we should help them by taking away things that are distracting them from this core mission of safety and requiring them to dedicate a portion of these programs that are highly flexible, but often just get spent on roadway expansion projects or repair projects, should be dedicated to projects that are going to move the needle on safety. Also should change their eligibilities for competitive grant programs. If you're failing to do this one fundamental purpose of the Federal Transportation Program, also talking about updating the BCA guidance. A lot of times projects will claim reductions coming from improvements in safety, sorry, coming from congestion reduction projects. Whereas what we actually saw in 2020, the congestion went away and fatality skyrocketed. There's a strong case to be made that roads that are congested are actually safer because it cuts down on speeds, right? Yeah, you'll see projects that are all about, widening, adding a lane. This is going to make enormous safety benefits. This has become de rigueur in like every, justification document for a new highway widening project. That should not be allowed anymore. Okay. That's number one. I'm going to pass it to Jaibin here for number two and let him walk through that.
Thank you, Steve. It would make a lot of sense to assume that because we've spent billions on this program, that the roadway design that we're funding and the guidance we have is based, in fact, and in evidence that it improves the safety for all road users. This is simply not the case. Um, this Our current roadway design guidance is based on 60 years of habit, of conjecture, and is not necessarily science-based. It is not necessarily proven to improve the roadway safety for all road users, especially the most vulnerable ones, walking, biking, people with disabilities. So the first thing we need to do as we push for new guidance, as we push for a new transportation system, is make sure that the evidence and the guidance that we have is evidence-based and researched by science, based in fact. And this can be done through the FHWA. The FHWA conducts research, and we need to make sure that the research it conducts is actually verifying the guidance that we're putting out in order to make sure that when we do put out guidance, it is science-based and improves the safety for people walking, biking, rolling, as well as those in cars. This will fix the guidance that we have currently, which is not necessarily based in science and is not necessarily proven to make sure that those who are walking, biking, rolling are safe. I'm going to move to the third point on this: context-sensitive speed limits. Currently, they've lessened or they've softened their recommendation on the 85% rule. However, it is still the standard for most local transportation and state agencies to have design speed limits that are different than posted speed limits. That means that when you're driving, you may be on a wide road, but the speed limit may be 30 miles per hour, while everyone around you is going 40 or 45. And that is not a sensible way to set design speed, or that's not a sensible way to set speeds. We need to make sure that our roadway design is actually based and is actually consistent with the posted speed. And that's why context-sensitive speed limits are so important. If you are on a wide road, you're going to drive faster, speeds are going to increase, and it's going to increase the danger for everyone using the roadway. So we need to make sure that we have a sensible approach to setting speed limits, and that means making sure that roadway design guidance lines up with the design speed. Additionally, as we set these science-based standards and as we have built out guidance that is based in evidence, we'll need to make sure that these transportation agencies follow this as the baseline. But we want to encourage local agencies and to build upon these standards. So we need to make sure that when design standards are deviated from, that they do increase the safety for all road users. So that means localities do have the flexibility to try new things, but when they do, we need to make sure that the standard they're using improves safety for people walking, biking, rolling, as opposed to just including an intervention that will only increase the safety of those within cars. I'll pass it back to Steve to talk about waste, fraud, and abuse and accountability.
We have a saying around here. Our interim CEO of Smart Growth America, Beth Osborne, has always said, "You measure what you treasure." Some variations on that theme. It's one way to discover that we don't truly prioritize safety is how bad our safety data is or are. And look no further than the FARS system, where fatalities are reported on every year. This comes from state level reports that are sent in. I've worked on our Dangerous by Design report. If you haven't seen that, then Jaibin can drop the link to that in the chat as well as we go. About the crisis of pedestrian safety in this country. I've worked on this report going back to, I think, 2009. And there was a time where, say, for example, we're putting that report out we want to put that report out in 2009. We get the data through the end of 2008. That used to come in like October of 2009. Now it's more like almost a year and a half late. I think back in April, we just got the final year data, which is actually called preliminary data in FARS on 2023, right? So 16, 17 months sometimes late on just being able to know how many people were killed, and because they have geocoded data in there, where, on what type of roadways, being able to search by functional classification. That stat I showed of the percentage of deaths that occur on state-owned arterial roadways, that's where we pull that number out of FARS. We need much better data. And there is no reason for that data to be delayed as long as it is. We also need better data in something like FARS. We need to know more. We need to know more about where people are killed, what the conditions are, what time of day, what was the lighting conditions, all of those things that often get lost. A lot of that can come from the templates that we use that mostly go to police reports, which is the primary source of a lot of that data in FARS. And then we also need better data on the solutions that we're trying. What works? Some of the most convincing stuff about roadway changes. I saw, a question in there about a road that badly needs improvement. People are skeptical, like being able to point to actual safety gains and changes in the number of deaths, or something we haven't talked about, injuries or serious injuries, being able to have that data and show which countermeasures are having the greatest impact, and start to push those up to the top of the list and say, hey, here's the stuff you can do that's going to have the greatest impact, and having that come from FHWA and US DOT from the top down. So there you have it. I'm going to pass it to Jabin for the next one.
Thank you. Once we start having these science-based standards, we also want to recognize that localities understand how to improve the safety on their roadways best. They understand the local context, and we want to make sure that when we do have a minimum baseline of safe evidence-based guidance, that we can allow localities to iterate and improve off of that in order to improve the safety for all roadway users. One way that we at Smart Growth America and Transportation for America often advocate for are quick build demonstration projects. Currently, quick build demonstration projects are allowed, but many localities and states are worried about implementing them because of lack of guidance and worries about violating current guidance. This is a quick build demonstration project we did in Maryland in coordination with the Maryland DOT and a locality there. Quick build demonstration projects are excellent because they use cheap materials, can be put into ground and iterated upon. They allow you to test out the roadway safety interventions you want to put in, and try new things quickly. So these are really important as localities look to improve on the federal standards. And we need to make sure that the federal administration is not just building guidance in, but encouraging localities to try out these safety interventions in order to improve where the federal standards are not meeting where they need to be. Can we go back to the? Thank you. Additionally, and this is something I've already hit on, is that we need to give localities the freedom to experiment and to use local designs when the federal standards aren't robust enough to meet what their locality needs. And so as long as we can show that the design standards that they're using are improving upon the federal standards and improve safety for everyone using the roadway in the specific context that they are citing, we should allow the localities to implement local design standards that improve upon the federal design standards. One thing that we've heard consistently in our time working with many local leaders, transportation planners, engineers, is the fear of the MUTCD, the Manual and Uniform Traffic Control Devices, and the roadway safety and design guidance, and worries about diverging from that We want to make sure that the federal government makes sure and makes very clear repeatedly that one, the MUTC is not law, it is guidance, and we need to make sure that is repeatedly and explicitly said. And additionally, to allow local leaders and residents to go to the FHWA and say, this is a case where our local design standard actually is safer than what the MUTCD or whatever the guidance is provides. The FHWA should collect these case studies, should build upon them in order to improve upon the guidance that it already has. So the process for local leaders and residents to challenge these interpretations of the Green Book and MUTCD will allow the federal government to collect case studies, build upon what they know are the issues with it, and allow them to improve upon it in further iterations. It'll also allow local leaders to implement safety interventions in the meantime and receive guidance on diverging from these roadway design guidance manuals and the MUTCD. And I'll pass it to
Okay,
Steve to talk about vehicles.
great. Yeah, last one here. We need our vehicle fleet to be safer, unquestionably. Especially as we ideally transition more of the fleet and electrify more of the fleet. These electric vehicles are significantly heavier than other vehicles, especially if they continue to stay the same size or larger than the fleet of 10 or 15 years ago. These are incredibly heavy vehicles that can pose a significant risk to people in collisions. We we are well aware of the fact. I mean, this is the worst kept secret in the automotive industry, is that the front ends of their vehicles are dangerous. They are dangerous for two reasons. They're dangerous because the visibility is very, very poor. From behind the wheel, it is impossible to see in front of vehicles that are built this tall. They don't have to be examples that are this extreme either. The visibility is getting worse. And at the same time, you have these front ends that are taller, that are, instead of taking someone in the knees or at the waist and putting them on the hood when they get hit, they are mowed down. People that are hit by a vehicle that looks like this are infinitely more likely to be killed, even at a lower speed compared to, being hit by a 1993 Toyota Camry. The vehicle fleet is becoming more dangerous, and we need to recognize that. So, establishing some minimum visibility standards for new cars. If we're able to do this through the new car assessment program through NCAP, that would be great. I think there's some real challenges in the regulatory environment to do some of these things, but we're agnostic of where the solution comes from. But we need to start talking about this, and we need to set some basic standards for new cars. And if those standards are not set, we're not wholly opposed to there being vehicles that are taller or that are heavier. But where do we draw the line on requiring special training or a CDL of some type to drive something? We do not let anyone go and buy a Volvo tractor trailer and drive it around. You have to be trained. You have to get a license. I think that's a great place to start. Also having a minimum level of insurance that can be responsible should you be in a collision, an accident, hurt somebody. And then lastly, just continuing to require more safety technology in new cars. There's a lot of evidence, backup cameras, front cameras, all these things have saved lives. We need to ensure that that progress continues and that we continue to require safety technology in our new cars. That is it. I think we're going to take a pause for questions. There's a couple that I wanted to take right off the bat that I saw in the Q&A. But if you have other questions, feel free to put them in there, and we'll try to tackle them live as we go. The first one I wanted to talk about was the question from someone anonymous who said, why do we make the assumption that all roads, bridges, and transit systems need replacement? Assets built 100 years ago may no longer serve the same purpose or need get rid of it. We completely agree. And I think states would be in a more realistic position to make those decisions if we didn't just keep giving them more money in every authorization and allowing them to avoid those hard decisions about what things need to be wound down, what things did we build in a different place, what things were 4 lanes that need to be 2 lanes, and we can even sell off right of way, do other things with that. So 100%. I don't think there's any assumption that everything that we need to keep for forever. But the incentives are all in the wrong place. The Charlie Munger, who was Warren Buffett's right-hand man for a number of years, said, "Show me the incentives, I'll show you the outcomes." We have the outcomes because there are no incentives to ask those hard questions about the infrastructure that we have. And once we feel like once we can start to put some of those things in place with the right kind of system of setting targets, measuring performance, whether it's safety or repair or other things, some of those things may happen. Okay, another question I saw, I think, which is a little related, from Eileen McCarthy, who I think is here in DC. So hello, Eileen. Thanks for joining us. She asked, so when we prioritize fixing existing high-speed, low-safety roads, are we just maintaining them as is, or are we really fixing them so they are safe for everyone? In other words, what does it mean to fix a road? It's a great question, and there's 2 or 3 things here that I would say in response. One is that we have another proposal under our Fix It First. And actually, let me see if I can just put it back up on here. There we go. I may just leave this up here so you can see everything as we talk. Under Fix It First, we talk about rebuilding local economies by reconnecting communities, by juicing the program, the small program created to repair the damage, which isn't just an interstate plowed through a neighborhood. It's also unsafe arterial that divides a community, all those sorts of things. And embedded in that idea is stopping, no longer creating the same damage with the rest of the federal program. So for the rest of that answer, I think I would say that there is a real need to just handle some basic repair things. Any road that's crumbling or a bridge that's crumbling is bad news, and states need to repair that. But I think just like we said to the previous question, giving them some discretion by setting the incentives in the right place. They are not going to, if they have to set positive safety targets, they're not going to be able to ignore all of their high-speed, low-safety roads. They will have to make changes on those roads. And then some of the other things that Jaibin talked about, with making the FHWA a center of excellence that's proactively pushing down the idea of quickly doing flexible demonstration projects and making changes quickly to show that they work so that you can do something permanent. In combination with some of these other ideas, I think we can get to that solution. But we are definitely not saying that, the problem with our infrastructure is just that we need to repave it. I think we need to change a lot of things, and that's what a lot of these other systems and measures are about. Okay. Look through the other questions. I saw someone raise their hand as we were going, and I didn't see the name. But if you want to raise your hand, oh, there you are, Mark. Okay, I'm going to let you, well, are you still there? There we go. Okay. Ask away. You can unmute.
Thank you. Okay. There's a material, ultra high performance cement. Friend of mine has North American distribution rights, and we did a repair seminar for the Texas Department of Highway bridge repair team.
Mm-hmm.
And because of freeze thaw cycles, they were going back every 18 months, 12 to 18 months to redo repairs from falling concrete.
Yep.
And the parting statement was, sandblast it well and do a good apply job with this stuff. Come back in 50 years and see how it's doing. And
yeah.
the thought I was just having was that if you were involved with this material and you were saying this material should only be used on highways that are in the right place and designed the right way, but as we use it to build in the designs, and it requires less material. It's 5 times stronger in compression than regular concrete. As we use it, then it's going to slash the maintenance costs going forward. and it's also going to slash the potholes and everything else like that. It's
Sure. Mark,
improving, pretty much impervious to water.
is there a
Yeah, so the
question or a
question
connection to
is
safety?
that something is that something we'd work with? Is that something that makes sense to you to sort of extend your, to sort of combine incentives for doing repair work with right materials that are vastly superior to, more excellent than what's being used today, and doing safety design, doing design for safety, so you're not designing in something that you'll have a very hard time tearing out later.
Yeah, I think innovative materials are a great idea. Probably something to talk about at TRB, or where I know there's a lot of materials nerds that talk about that kind of stuff. But I appreciate the comment. Jaibin, are there any questions that you want to take while I scan through here?
I'm looking through the questions. There's a question on, if I think it was from Lyle, if we as transportation professionals are prioritizing safety, why then do our guides seem to prioritize speed and volume? Because the people who are writing these guides are not actually prioritizing safety, and the metrics that we use currently, such as level of service, don't actually consider safety. And the things we prioritize the most when we build out our system is not safety. People just like saying it. Steve, I don't know if you want to elaborate on that, but
no, I think that's great. Yeah, we'll leave it there. I'm just answering another question there. Okay, great question from Jeffrey. In West Virginia, the state owns 95% of all roads. How do we use federal reauthorization changes to make sure that NPOs, countless cities, et cetera, have better control of decisions and funding? There are definitely some organizations that we're, allied with, friends of ours, that are pushing for more money to be controlled by locals, pushing more money to locals. I think that's great. That's not something we're necessarily opposed to. I think even some of what we're trying to recognize in our proposals here is this reality that, whether the state owns 95% or 45% of the roads, 100% the state owns the bulk of the most deadly roads within a state. And that also makes me think of, cities and counties might like to point the finger at the state, while they also have plenty of unsafe roads where they are free to do this stuff now. And they should maximize every dollar that they have and be building the safest roads possible, that they can point to the state and say, why don't you do it the way we do it? That's a great way to have some credibility there. But yeah, it's a great question. And I think the short answer there is that these changes that we are talking about, it may not be about sending more money directly to NPOs or cities, but it's about holding states accountable for actually improving safety on that 95% of the roads that they control in the state of West Virginia. So thanks for that. Okay. Hello, Mayor Mike. Mike McGinn, our good friend from America Walks, formerly the mayor of Seattle, with a great question. What states are doing the best at Fix It First? Here's a great way to find out. If you, Jaibin might be able to drop this one in the chat as we go. We did a report a few years ago called Repair Priorities that looked at this very question. Which states are spending the most of their money on repair versus expansion? You can find, everyone can find some answers in there. There's definitely a handful of states that have devoted, the bulk of their funds towards repair. Sometimes because the other monies that they want to use focus their state resources on other stuff because it has less strings. One example, we're not a state, and Washington, D.C. devotes almost 100% of their budget to repairing their infrastructure. They've recognized something that a lot of other places probably should, which is we've built a complete network. Now let's start taking care of it. And that's what we think is really important there.
And I also want to shout out our data hub. I'm putting that link into it in the chat. We have great data based on breaking down repair state by state, the percentage of pavement that's in good condition, bridges in poor condition, that sort of thing. And I think if you're a state level advocate or just someone who's interested, it's a good resource.
Mm-hmm. One other question that just popped in from someone anonymous down at the bottom. How do you stop this perverse contradiction at the MPO level, county, local level, safety over speed? Should you be writing your members of Congress or the DOT Inspector General? Who exactly? How do we attack this issue at the project level? That's where it needs to happen. It's a great question. The answer to the first part, who should you be writing to? All of those people, yes. You should be writing to all of those people. You should be asking them, asking your member of Congress, or if you have an appointed state DOT commission or a regional commissioner or your FHWA district office or whoever it is, when someone is killed, you should be putting the onus on them to come and see the site, to walk it, to tour it. We had a story that stuck with me from this last year. We were doing some technical assistance in the state of Alaska, and we went out to this community, and we had some Alaska DOT people with us there, and we heard from one of them, like, they've been designing projects there for a long time. They'd never been there before. That's common. Get people out there. And then I just wanted to give a plug for, I mentioned Strong Towns earlier. Their crash analysis studio is a great model for what needs to happen at the project level. It's tremendous. They have the ability to come and do some at locations across the country where accidents have happened, where people have been injured or killed, or problematic intersections. This may also apply to the other question from someone about we've already collected countless data on a roadway. We know it's unsafe, but nobody wants to do anything about it. Great solution to that problem potentially. So the crash studio analysis is great, but it's an open source thing. They provide all the tools. You can watch some of their examples. It's basically bring a panel of people together, dive into all the details of the accident, talk about the design that never gets talked about in those police reports and accident reports, and then invite your elected officials to come to it, come and participate. They've had mayors, they've had council members come and be a part of those panels, kind of assessing what happened when someone got killed and talking about what can be done to fix it. It's a great question. This issue absolutely needs to be attacked from both sides. It needs to be attacked from the top down with a new approach to safety at the federal level, but also from the bottom up, and going and talking about the places that really need attention and doing something quickly. There's things we can do overnight to make the most dangerous places safer. Great question. Okay, a couple more. Oh yeah, great comment from Amy here in the chat. Tell your state reps, speaking as the House Chair of Transportation Committee in Connecticut, nothing activates members of the General Assembly faster than hearing from a constituent. Absolutely. Yeah, not forgetting about the the state legislatures that you've got there. I know the members of Congress may seem far away, may seem harder to get to action, but you've got state reps as well that are would really love to get involved. Yeah, great tip from Amy. Try to avoid using the word accident. I've probably said it a couple times today. It's a hard habit to break. Crashnotaccident.com. Great suggestion. Okay, any other burning questions? If not, we can wrap up a couple minutes early here. We're going to talk about what's coming next briefly, but then we can wrap up. I just want to say Jaibin's going to close this out, but thanks everybody for being here and listening to us talk for a long time and explain all these things. If you want to reach out, please do. We would love to talk more.
Thank you all so much. If you want to learn more about our reauthorization proposals, we are going to be doing webinars throughout the summer. The next one is Reauthorization 201, which is building off our previous report, Reauthorization 101, which provides a great overview of how this whole process works. That's going to be June 25th at 2 p.m. Again, look at tforamerica.org/reauthorization if you want to look up our proposals. And we are glad to engage with y'all further. You can find our emails on the website. And I'm looking forward to hearing all your great thoughts. Thank you so much for everyone who came. and there will be a recording that we can send out.
Thanks, folks. Have a good one.